My name is Seth Teeter. This is Construction 598, Advanced Project Management at Arizona State University, and this is a presentation on trust versus transparency. What is trust? Trust is defined by the dictionary as the belief that someone or something is reliable, good, honest, or effective. What about transparency? Transparency is defined by the dictionary as something that is able to be seen through, easy to understand or notice, honest and open, not secretive. However, there's a problem with trust. There's an overall lack of trust in organizational leadership and an overall lack of trust in the workplace. It's so bad that only 11% of employees strongly believe that managers carry out their actions according to what they'll say or do, and only 7% of employees strongly believe that leaders in their company look out for their employees' best interests. The hypothesis here is if transparency were to replace trust, companies would be more efficient and more successful. The methodology we will use to determine whether trust or transparency is more effective: 1. Identify characteristics of trust and transparency. 2. Describe research on trust in the workplace. 3. Describe research on transparency in the workplace. And 4. Determine whether trust or transparency is more successful in the workplace. Let's look at some definitions of trust. Trust is a belief that is shown to have many facets, and the definition of trust may vary from person to person. Trust is a psychological state comprising the intention to accept vulnerability based upon positive expectations or behaviors of another. Trust is an expectation of another entity with no dominant information and metrics to support it. It is only needed in a non-transparent environment, increasing risk, decision-making, and reliance upon relationships. Transparency implies true sharing of information between two or more parties. Transparency is a term that refers to openness and public accessibility of information. Transparency is a description of an environment where events, occurrences, and levels of expertise are made simple and dominant, allowing everyone to understand. Let's look at some characteristics of trust and transparency now that we have a few definitions. Trust involves belief, expectations, risk, decision-making, vulnerability, reliance, influence. Transparency, however, involves truth, openness, honesty, integrity, accountability, accessibility, and communication. Now let's take a look at trust and transparency in the workplace. Research involving trust reveals trust is often seen as the foundation of a healthy workplace. Trust is used in the workplace to promote influence, determine stability, success, and increase productivity. Trust states that worker performance has ties to a strong relationship with management, and trust should be used to manage risk and uncertainty. Now let's take a look at what role transparency plays in the workplace. Research reveals that transparent leaders do not have a hidden agenda. Transparency promotes accountability, collaboration, cooperation, and commitment. Transparency, through mandatory disclosure of policies, procedures, and company financial information, can be a deciding factor in why an employee chooses a new company. And transparency can be used to build relationships. So what is the difference between trust and transparency? We've learned that transparency involves openness, honesty, integrity, accountability, communication, and one cannot disagree why this is important in the workplace. And the research also reveals that trust is seen to be very important in the workplace. However, trust can be broken. And when trust is broken, it does not fully recover, even after receiving apologies, forgiving people, and recognizing consistent patterns of actions from the individual who violated trust in the first place. Executives recognize the importance of rebuilding trust, but have very differing ideas on how rebuilding trust can be achieved. Now, let's take a look at some company case studies of companies who have shifted the culture of transparency from trust. First, Simco, a Brazilian company, has used transparency through the following methods: given employees the right to approve every item of expenditure, employees able to choose their own salaries, employees can work from home or wherever they're wanted, employees do not have a set time to go into work, everyone has a vote in company board meetings. Through these methods of transparency, Simco has been able to increase revenue from $4 million in 1982 to $212 million in 2003, reduce inventories by 65%, increase their workforce from 90 workers in 1982 to 3,000 workers in 2003. One of the few companies in Brazil that was able to survive hyperinflation. Maybe Simcoe is just an isolated case. However, let's look at Bar Marco, a Pittsburgh eatery, who has also implemented a culture of transparency. Here's what Bar Marco has done to achieve transparency: completely eradicated tipping. Everyone receives a base pay of $35,000, 500 shares in the company, and paid vacation. Every employee participates in a weekly financial meeting, offering suggestions about how to improve day-to-day operations. And here's what Bar Marco has been able to do since implementing an atmosphere of transparency. After 1 month of opening, revenues exceeded expectations by 26%. Overhead costs decreased from 40% to 30% in 2 months. And weekly profits jumped from $3,000 per week to $9,000 per week. Maybe these are just two isolated cases. However, take a look at a third company, Zappos, which might show us a pattern of the importance of transparency in the workplace. Zappos has done the following to achieve transparency: eliminated the micromanaging boss. The company offered anyone 3 months severance pay if they felt the work atmosphere did not jive with their views or management style. The company offers employees $2,000 to quit to make sure that employees are there for more than just a paycheck. Employees have a life coach, and Zappos ranks their colleagues by how well they know each other. Since implementing this culture of transparency, Zappos has had $1 billion in annual sales in 2008, ranked 6th on Fortune magazine's list of best companies to work for, was bought by Amazon in 2009 for $1.2 billion. All these companies have created a way for hopefully businesses can catch on and understand the shift from culture from trust to transparency, and how this influences and helps the work environment. Our conclusion here: trust is a varying belief. However, transparency is an absolute, always remaining constant. There's no uncertainty with transparency. And transparent companies produce better results than companies based solely on trust.